for that
Dang
one
it, guys.
special
Now I have to go to the
kiss.
bathroom.
Go.
Sorry.
It's happening to me. Some people wait a lifetime for a moment like this.
It's interesting how perceptions change, because to me 39 is not old at all.
No, of course not, because you are creeping up on it.
Yeah, that's right. I'm full of life.
Vigor.
Vigor. I'm spry.
Only old
Nobody
people
says
are
spry about young people.
And also,
Only
it's
old
never
people are spry.
it's never said in like a normal way. You're only surprised.
Like you
Like,
spry.
spry.
Spry old thing. Nobody says
Nobody
that.
says that.
Spry old thing. We got any spry old things watching this? Drop a comment if you're a spry old thing.
Say spry old thing with a waving emoji.
All right. Hi, all you everyone. Spry old things. Anyways.
Youngins and spry old things.
Should we get
The actual
what's the
tears.
percentage of youngsters to spry old things watching this?
Who are the
right
middle
now?
aged?
Well, there's one or the other, Lacey.
And you
You're
have to choose.
either,
I guess it depends on who you ask.
you're either
Is what
young
we're
or you're
figuring out.
super old. Those are the only two
Oh my
options.
god. Amazing.
So anyway, let's get into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it.
We're going to talk about religion.
Yes.
Yeah. Religion.
I
Gonna
love religion.
Get all up in that religious spirit. Get in the spirit. The religious, spirit. That's right. This is like you get in the Christmas spirit, right? But there's the religious spirit. What if the Christmas spirit was like actually a spirit? It's like tormented by the Christmas spirit.
Just plain Mariah Carey
Out in the
over and over.
park
That's who's
singing.
responsible for Mariah Carey.
Someone's out of their mind singing All I Want for Christmas.
Mariah Carey's song comes on every third song because of the Christmas.
Call the
spirit.
deliverance team. Call the deliverance team.
The Christmas spirit is haunting the
Yes.
radio station.
She's possessed by the Christmas
Oh
spirit.
my God.
Wow, that was a good that effectively derailed my train of thought. Religion. We're going to talk about religion. What is religion? In the modern Christian world, right? Especially parts of Christendom in which we mostly find ourselves, which would be charismatic, grace movement, et cetera, right? Religion's got a bad name. A lot of the world, not a lot of the world, actually, most of the world is religious. There's a tiny minority of human beings who are not religious, who are
that's
not
true.
religiously affiliated.
I think it probably only has like a bad taste in like actually a small.
Yeah,
group
it's a
of-
small percentage because
compared to
most
the rest of
people
the
in the world are affiliated somehow
Yeah.
religiously.
Well, and
affiliated.
religion is also very cultural, right? Like for a lot of people.
But in our circles, people are like, oh, religion, we don't want religion and this kind of thing. But what is religion really? And I get what they mean by that. So you talk about religion or a religious spirit, and you could talk about the leaven of Herod and the leaven of the Pharisees, right?
Yes.
Jesus said, beware the leaven of Herod and the leaven of the Pharisees. That's the political influence, like the ungodly, maybe demonically influenced or humanist or something like that. Religious of political influence is Herod, and then religious would be Pharisees, and
Right.
they're religious leaders. The man-made religious world is what rejected and crucified the Son of God, right? And so when I think about religion, I'm thinking about the way that I kind of define. There's like the world's definition, and then there's God's definition. The world's definition is, it's, to put it really simply from my perspective, it's kind of man's attempt at reaching God, at being saved, at becoming a good person, at escaping sin, and somehow grasping righteousness.
Mhm.
You go through all these different religious systems in the world, and they all kind of have those elements.
I think like at their core, they're self-protective and self-centered.
Yeah, it's about
Self.
you're watching out for yourself. And it also involves it's got a lot of external things. It also involves going to a center of worship, a temple or something like that, doing some sort of rituals that are worship. That's worship,
Mhm.
right? You go to the place, you do worship. I'm thinking about out here, right outside this room, right down the street, there's a temple right there, and people go there. They go into the temple. It's beautiful, this beautiful gold, colored paint, artistic building. They go inside, and there's the image of the Buddha, and they go in there and they light the incense. They give offerings. They do mantras, things like that, in order to get something out of it, get merit, to get protection from evil spirits, this kind of thing. So they go to the temple, to the image, to do that stuff.
Yeah.
I think we see a similar thing in a lot of parts of the church, actually, is there's this concept of you go to the building to meet God, right? And even where a lot of churches call the stage or the front part of the stage, right in front of the stage, they even call that an altar. Here's the altar, right? So a lot of parts of that's where we get altar call. We're gonna have an altar call. You come to the altar. So we've really taken that temple and altar imagery and language.
I mean, that's in the Old Testament, those sort of things.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, I think seeing the origin of, we both of us have been reading a lot of the Old Testament recently, right? And I'm just struck with like the similarities between, oh gosh, the amount of sacrifices that Solomon gave when he like had built the temple for the Lord. I'm like, have you like imagined that? It's unreal and so bloody and so crazy. And I'm like, wow, I can like imagine this in a lot of places I've been, like in present day, and a lot of the religions that I've been a part of. Like, not been a part of, but I've seen, and been
the many religions which I've joined over the years.
just dabbled. No, not at all. Not at all. But like just seeing those things, it feels so, otherworldly, but actually like it is like the roots of.
Oh, totally.
They're onto something or they understand the human need for a sacrifice and things like that.
I saw the tabernacle and Solomon's temple in a whole new light after going to lots of Tibetan temples.
Yes.
You go in them and there's all this gold stuff, and they got the colorful tapestries and curtains and things like that. And they have the incense burning. They have the bells, the trumpets. They have the help me out here. The candles and torches.
And all the smells.
It's very smoky. You have the smells. You have the smell of livestock around. And I was like, this must be what the temple back in the day was like,
very
actually.
Similar,
yeah. Pretty wild.
But I think it's important to like realize that like our current expression of church is like so far from the modern expression is so wildly different, and actually our roots are from a like mystical religion like that. It's wild.
So our in man-made religion, we want to know where can we go to find God. We want to know what can I do to connect with God or get right with God or get rid of my own sin or get blessing or be protected from evil spirits. Yeah. What steps do I have to go through, right, in order to grasp these things?
Yeah.
What do I worship? And there's this thing of the image.
Yeah.
you've got the Buddhas, you've got Hindus, they creating this image,
And icons.
and you direct your worship, your attention towards that thing
Yeah.
as you're going through the rituals. And that also has shown up in the church with the
Yes, of
icons
course.
and things like that. I remember going to St. Peter's Basilica, and it was just wild. It was like so similar to some of the things in Asia that we've seen.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, this is something I've been thinking about a lot this year, is that God said, "You shall not make any graven images." And it's like, okay, so what does that mean? We're not allowed to like paint a picture of Jesus? Or how far do you take that, you know? But I think that God's intention with that is that we worship him, but also he already made his image.
Mm.
Like, I think God's concept of religion, that system, right, of where do I go and what do I do to connect with God, and what's the image where I direct my offerings and my worship and that kind of thing.
Right.
So God made man in his image. We are the image bearers.
Yeah.
When it comes to the temple, we are the temple of the Holy Spirit. Human beings are both the temple and the image.
Mm.
Isn't that wild? We're the
Oh, that's
temple and
amazing.
the image. So in God's system of worship, and we can unpack this further,
We should unpack this further.
in God's system of worship, it is centered, it is filled with people.
Mm.
You know, his plan was never to be in a house made with stone, built by man. His plan was never to be reduced to a golden image where people direct their attention and give offerings in front of that. His plan was always to dwell among us, to dwell in us and among us.
Mm.
So that's why I have an issue with calling a church building the house of God. The church
Yeah.
building, that's a gathering place for the house of God.
Yeah. That's
Right?
good. That's good.
And the church buildings matter. Church buildings matter. Like that's
Yeah,
important.
Of course. They're
But-
functional even.
It's not the house of God,
Yeah.
right?
It's a very
People are the house of God.
Yeah.
The building is the gathering place for the house of God to come
Mhm.
together.
Yeah.
So all throughout the Bible, we have these times when it's like God stands inside of people almost, or inside of a group of people, like the poor, for example. And he receives our actions towards them as actions to himself, right? Like
Yeah.
he says in Proverbs, it says, "Whoever gives to the poor lends to the Lord, and the Lord will surely repay him."
Yes. I love that verse.
That is wild, because you give to a person and God takes it as a gift to himself. And we can
Yes.
see this a lot of other places in the Bible too, which we'll get to. But you give to the poor, God takes it as unto himself, and then he takes it a step further and says, "I am now in debt to you."
Which is wild.
That blows my mind.
I love it.
And it has to be a voluntary position,
Yeah.
because who is going to actually lend to the Lord? Who's going to be the Lord's lender?
Yeah.
You know, who will the Lord be indebted to?
Well, I think it also just like points to his actual value for people who are often overlooked, and especially in like would be ignored,
That's
would
right.
be not taken care of. And he's like, wait a second, like this is how important they are to me,
Mm-hmm.
that I would willingly go into debt to somebody who would take care of them.
Amazing.
Like that's
It's
that's
just
amazing.
amazing.
Like that's, I mean, like he's giving a guarantee. He's like, I am the one who's backing them up.
You can if you can
Right?
imagine God saying, "I'm going to go into debt to you. You are my lender, and I'm going to pay you back."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah. So much to say about that.
That is beautiful. In Matthew 25, Jesus says, "Whatever you do to the least of these."
Yeah.
Right. Actually, let's read it. This is one of the best examples of this thing that we're talking about here. Matthew 25, starting verse 34. Jesus is talking. He says, the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? And when did we see you as a stranger and invite you in, or naked and clothe you? They're like, I would have remembered this. I have not seen you naked. And surely this has not slipped my mind. When did this happen? When did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? You know, when Jesus, you were not sick. This didn't happen. The king will answer and say to them, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it for one of the least of these brothers or sisters of mine, you did it for me. Wow. And then he turns to those on the left and he says, depart from you, accursed people, into the eternal fire which has been prepared for the devil and his angels. There you go. The eternal fire which has been prepared for the devil and his angels.
Yeah. There you go.
Pay attention to that. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, you did not invite me in. Naked, you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, you did not visit me. Say, when did we see you? You know, all these ways. He'll answer and say that to the extent that you did not do it for one of the least of these, you did not do it for me either. These will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. So this is the Lord. This is Jesus. This is Jesus.
Yeah.
Standing inside, maybe literally, maybe metaphorically, standing inside, identifying with the poor, the imprisoned, the sick, the stranger, the foreigner,
Yeah.
and taking our treatment of them as treatment of him.
Yes. So I would say, like, also this to me is a really important subject. I love these verses when it comes to like worship and leading worship and living a life of worship. And I'm like, I think that when we're talking to our interns, we're talking to anybody about like getting down to our core values of like, okay, why do we do what we do? I love asking that question, like, why? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you here? Why do you want to do missions? Why do you want to, like, asking all those questions, like figuring out, hey, what is actually like underneath all of this that's fueling me being here and doing the things that we're doing? And I can honestly say, like, for me, like, what is fueling everything is just loving Jesus, like loving him so much. And thank God, I'm so grateful. Like, as a child, I remember him like pursuing me and wooing me and like pulling me into himself. And just loving Jesus so much. And I remember when I went to the prayer house, all I wanted was to just, I'm like, I could stay here forever. Like, I literally, my life is for this. Like, I exist to love him. I exist to just like burn. And then realizing that, over the course of the years of growing up in him, that part of like loving Jesus and loving the person, let's talk about us, right? Okay. Like we are different people, right? not the same, very similar. We have a lot of shared interests, but then there's things that you like to do or you're interested in or that I like to do, that we just don't share those interests. But over the years, we have grown to share some of the same interests. And it starts from love for that person, right? Like, I'm like, oh, I actually like want to know about the things that you care about. Like, I want to see your heart and value it. And I want to not just value it, but I want to grow in experiencing the things that you love. And I think that for me, getting into like missions, it was always an invitation in loving Jesus And I think like at the bottom of all that for me, like with the poor and everything, like I'm very aware that I don't have actually the capacity for anything good really, except for the Holy Spirit working in me. And like when we started doing like anything with the poor, with the like
Talking about the sick.
the sick, the
I mean,
poor,
in
the
Matthew
people in
25, he's talking about
prison,
sick, people in prison,
all those
foreigners
things.
or strangers,
Honestly, even
the
enemies,
poor.
like loving. There's that's not in this exact thing, but he talks about a lot about loving enemies and doing good to them and all of that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is a part of loving Jesus, is stewarding his heart. Like we have the invitation as his bride to see his heart, steward it, and love it. And that actually becomes your personal interest.
Yeah.
And I think that is what has happened to me, is this transformation. Like, actually, like, no, this is a shared thing. Like, I have this heart. Like, it doesn't feel like I'm trying to communicate this, and it's hard for me to communicate it because it's such a like deep, profound experience for me. And I don't always do like expressing that in words. But for me, these verses are really powerful because I do feel that way when there's been situations with people like the lady in Colombia who was on the street and she was begging, but she was also like very obviously demonized. And I just felt like love for her, like deep, profound love for her. And all I wanted to do was hold her. And I just knew I could feel like this is the Lord, like doing this. I just knew. And in that moment, just like held her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just beautiful to think like God takes that as an action to himself.
So in man-made religion, it's like you go to the temple, you give an offering before the image. And we have versions of this that have made their way into the church
For
as
sure.
well.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the temple, you give an offering before the image. In God, he says, you are the temple. Wherever you are the temple. As an individual and collectively, you are the house of God. And you go to the image bearer of the Lord, and you give to the Lord through that person as an offering.
Yeah.
He said to the poor, the sick, the imprisoned, the stranger, or just your fellow man, children, anybody, really, in my opinion, it could be anybody, but especially those who are in need or somehow marginalized, disenfranchised, oppressed, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You give to them, and God says, you just gave that to me.
Yeah.
He stands inside them. He identifies with them as them.
Yes.
And receives it to himself.
And I think it's also like guaranteeing like real love, right? Like not self-centered, like I'm doing this good deed to get something, because he's like, no, actually, like I am in this person. Like I'm like, to me, it guarantees like authentic love, like not just giving so that he sees, but like, here he is.
John 12. Mary of Bethany, she's moved in a moment of worship. She breaks open this extremely expensive jar of perfume that costs a year's wages and pours it over the feet of Jesus in an act of worship. And people are watching this and they're saying, this is so extravagant. Like, this is inappropriate. And Judas, who's the treasurer, he says, this could have been sold and all the money given to the poor.
Yeah.
And Jesus responds in a really interesting way. He says, you'll always have the poor. Right? Leave her alone. Let her do this, because you're always going to have the poor. You're not always going to have me. And I think what he meant by that is you're not always going to have me in the flesh. So right now, Mary, at that moment, Mary had a limited time opportunity
Yeah.
to pour something costly and valuable on the feet of Jesus. That was in the flesh. That was a limited time opportunity because Jesus was going to go to the Father. After that, we would have the poor. And he would stand beside them. He would stand inside them. He would identify with them.
So massively,
And for us to lavish extravagant acts of worship on Jesus looks like serving the poor.
Yes.
Right? He says, you're always going to have the poor.
Yes.
I used to read that and think, well, poverty is always going to be a problem. That's never going to be an issue. There's never going to be an end to that. That's how I interpreted that.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like,
and I think
oh, well,
people
he's just
do
saying that's always going to be a problem. You're never going to reach the end of that. I don't think that's what he meant, because that doesn't sound like Jesus to me.
That doesn't
Like,
line up with the kingdom.
that's not a very hopeful perspective, right? But to say, hey, you're going to worship me through serving your fellow man.
Yeah.
You know, for the next however long, let her do this right now, because that's coming. Like, wow, that's beautiful.
That identification that he has with the poor is just incredible.
I remember in our relief projects, we have two relief trucks, and we had some amazing friends and sponsors sponsor those two trucks. So we got to, it ended up being my responsibility to go around, shop for those trucks, and do all the modifications for them, because they've got to be able to go off-road and haul loads through monsoon rivers and, off-road in the jungle and mountains and deep mud and all this kind of thing. So it has to be able to handle that and haul loads. And so I was shopping for trucks and looking for the type of vehicle that could handle that, and then doing these modifications for load hauling and off-road, putting steel bumpers on and steel rims and reinforcing the suspension and, lifting them just enough to get clearance but not lose stability, and putting the winch on to pull them out when they get stuck and pull other people out when they get stuck, and all these things, and registering them. When I found them, I have to go check out the trucks, register them, do all this paperwork.
Yes, we're getting tired hearing it.
No, I'm just saying, it was all these details. I'm going
Yes, I know.
ad nauseum for a reason here.
I know you are. And it was an insane amount of details. And it took
registration and insurance and all these things.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then driving it up there and dropping off. And every step of the way, I was like, I felt like I was giving Jesus a present.
So
it was
beautiful.
like, I was doing this for him, because I'm saying this truck is going to be used to haul supplies and food and hope to people who are hiding in the jungle from airstrikes and firefights.
Yeah.
And I see where that's going, and like the registration and insurance and all these different things that I'm doing. I'm like, Jesus, I love you. This is a gift. This is I'm pouring. This is my. In this particular moment, on this particular day, this is my alabaster box that I'm breaking open and pouring on your feet, Jesus.
Yes, I love it.
It felt real. It felt like an act of worship.
Yeah.
As I'm doing all these things, it felt like I'm in a worship service.
Yeah.
Which we could talk about. What do you mean is worship? I don't know if we want to talk about that.
I'm fine with talking about this. It doesn't take that long. I mean, this is worship. I think he's laid it out. This is maybe the most clear definition of worship.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, it to me, it's clear in Romans, for example, Romans 12, what worship is, which is being a living sacrifice.
We need to think about, how does Jesus receive love?
Yes, exactly.
I love the love languages teaching, because what we've learned from that is, we don't, like, if I love acts of service and you love physical touch, but acts of service don't mean anything to you.
Yeah.
As an example, right? She's a mom.
perfect-
Acts of service mean something to her.
Well, it does now, but it didn't used to. When we read
That's
this,
true.
I was
she
like,
became a mom, and then she's
I'm like, do anything for me, and I feel loved.
Serve me.
I'll take anything. But
no. But the point is,
before that.
though, if she doesn't care about for example, acts of service, and I only do acts of service because that means something to me,
That's the only way.
she's not going to interpret that
Yeah.
as love. If I never touch her, never say anything to her, she's not going to receive that as love. I need to learn to give love the way that she
Yeah,
receives
that's
it.
the relationships 101, right?
With Jesus, worship, if you could sum worship up very, very simply, it would be expressing love to Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? Expressing love to Jesus. And we need to think about, how does Jesus receive love?
Mm. Well, he says,
Right?
this is it.
And so we give to him by serving our fellow man. We express love and care for our fellow man. He receives that as love and care
Yeah.
for himself. Amazing.
I mean, yeah.
What a
I
God.
feel like there's so much, but yeah.
In the grace movement, we have this thing, we're very solid on, I don't have to work to earn anything from God. Right?
Yeah.
He loves me. He accepts me. But sometimes it ends there and people are like, well, I don't need to do anything else.
Well, I think it's like the pendulum swing away from.
Because, well, no, here's the thing,
works.
because it's centered on, I don't need to do anything to get something from God.
Right.
But what about giving to God?
Yeah, I think that
Do you have to
that
do
comes
something
after.
to give to him? Like, I don't have to earn God's love by working, but I do need to work to show him love, to give him love. You know what I mean? Like, it's a relationship. It's a relationship. It's not just, and religion boils it down to, what do I have to do to get something from God? Man-made religion. And we're rejecting that idea as a movement.
Uh-huh.
But I think maturity in relationship says, I do something to express love.
Well, and I
to
think
give love.
that's the thing that you have to see too, is like the different. I do see it as maturity. I see it as a maturing into something, and I think like when you are a child, like a baby, for example, they do nothing. In fact, they just have constant need, and a parent just shows up over and over and over and gives love and gives love and gives love, and it's in the child receiving that love that they're able to grow and develop well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like God's role in our life is Father, right? And he grows us up into Christ. We could do a whole podcast episode on growing with the Lord. I think that would be really helpful. And I think that like learning how to receive, learning how to lay aside I have to work for this. I need to do something to pay God back for what he did for me, or like I need to work for his approval or his love, like laying that aside actually, and like receiving from him actually enables us to give love authentically to God.
Yeah.
Like I love this quote that came out of IHOP once upon a time, that was International House of Prayer, not the pancake.
Quote that came out
of International House of Pancakes. I wish I could remember one now, because that would be a great moment.
I don't know what they say.
Buttered pancakes. I don't know.
Buttered pancakes.
Come
Quote,
get them. Come get them.
International House of Pancakes. Buttered pancakes.
Can't even think of a quote. No, but it was in order to love God, we have to understand how God loves God and how God loves us. And I love that. I love that it's like the reality of like God loving God, of course. That's a whole, again, another podcast episode, I feel like. Just exploring how he loves, like the Trinity has love. Like they are love, they have love for each other. Like it's amazing. And then how God loves people, and recognizing like there's so many verses in the Bible that's like you loved him because he first loved you. Like he's always the first one. Like we only have anything because of his step towards us, right? Our pursuit of him is really a response to him. And so for me, when I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, like actually receiving from him, like in the stage of like infancy, even like when I learned how to just sit and like receive and understand like, oh God, like I can't work for salvation. I can't work to become, loved by you. You just love me no matter what. Like, that sets me up to be able to give and love authentically to him. But I think that sometimes we stop there and we don't grow past that. We don't mature into partners with him. We don't mature into the bride. We stay like we say a baby, and we don't grow into like, yeah, partners or the bride or, somebody who's like giving in that way.
The Finished Works deals with this. I remember years ago when I was first getting hit by the revelation of the finished work of Jesus on the cross.
Yeah.
That I realized how much of my Christian life and prayer life and all that was centered on dealing with my own sin or earning something from God, earning acceptance, earning love, earning righteousness, earning holiness, these kinds of things. And then the revelation of the finished work of Jesus on the cross hit me, and it's like, wow, he finished it.
Yeah.
He did all of that. The acceptance, the love, the justification, the righteousness, the holiness. Our old man is dead. The old things have passed away. New things have come. All that stuff has been taken care of by him without our help.
Yeah.
And what that means is that sets us free from self-focused religion.
Yeah.
It sets us free from, what do I have to do to get?
Yeah, or to protect myself from
How am I going to protect myself? How am I going to get something? How am I going to get blessing?
Like
that kind of thing. It sets us free to think,
earning the
wow,
eternal life or
you
something.
live in a place of gratitude of, wow, look what God has done. Look how much he loves me, how he accepts me, how he's washed me.
Yeah.
And I'm giving out of love to him through our fellow man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isaiah 58. This one blew my mind years ago. Isaiah 58. This is the fast that I've chosen.
Yes.
That's what the Lord says. He's, that to break the yoke of injustice, to set free captives, to share your bread with the hungry. That's the kind of fast that he's chosen. And before that, he's reprimanding Israel, and he's saying they delight in the nearness of God. They love to pray. They love to fast. They love to go to the temple. They delight in the nearness of God. And I'm like, he's saying these as bad things? And yet they're not paying fair wages. They have abundance and they're not sharing with those who do not. They're rejecting foreigners and strangers. These kinds of things. They're not serving one another. Wow. He's like, I reject your fast. I reject your religious performances. The fast that I want is for you to do justice and share your bread with the hungry. Yeah. That when they do that, he receives it as prayer and fasting.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It is. In fact, Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Were you going to say Sodom and Gomorrah?
No, you do it. You go.
Sodom and Gomorrah. Why was it destroyed? We don't have to try to figure it out. It actually says it explicitly in the book of Ezekiel. It says that they were fat and overfed and did not grasp the hand of the needy. Yeah. Therefore, God wiped them out.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of the gays.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying it was it was because they had abundance and they didn't serve the poor. They didn't welcome the stranger.
It's heavy. I think it's heavy.
This is how strongly God feels about this.
Yes, and I think that it's so easy to ignore it. How? I don't know. It's not being taught. I don't know how. This is not one of the most core messages that every church is preaching, let's put it in the rotation every 6 weeks, right? This is such a massive thing. And yet we have music at every service. Some churches have communion at every service and all these other things, and I know that we have I know most churches, at least where we're from, have deacons and things like that set up, but I'm talking
this is foundational Christian living.
This is our personal life. I was told to read the Bible. I was taught to read the Bible, taught to do these things, but why was this not taught like this?
When new believers come to the church, you go to the new believers class. What are you taught? You're taught about, the sacraments, baptism, how to study the Bible. Join a cell group, study the Bible, pray, go to church, might even mention tithing. But serving the poor, I don't know, that might not
We are not
show
very
up in that.
familiar with all this. I just think it's not. I
haven't been to a New Believer
I was gonna
for a
say, like,
while,
I'm
so-
pretty sure that I'm not sure we ever attended a New Believer class.
did.
You did.
Yeah.
Oh,
When
did
I
not.
was a young warthog.
Oh my gosh. Copyright. Just kidding. Yeah, I think it's massive. I love what you said, learning to love God the way that he wants
Receives
to
love.
be loved. Yeah,
Yeah.
receives love. I'm like, what if we just took that? Honestly, we could even close there. Like what does the Bible say about how God receives love? Because it's really clear, because even in 1 Corinthians 13, he talks about doing all these things but not having love, and it's just noise.
To be fair, he says you give all your stuff to the poor, but don't have love.
Yeah,
So you can do
but
that
I'm
too.
saying, yeah, exactly. I'm saying though that this is why that's so massive. Like seeing how he, like seeing him as a person. Like, okay, first of all, it is crucial that we understand that we cannot earn stuff from him. The finished works is actually the most essential thing, right? Because like that's where you enter the like giving to the poor as a way of earning like a right standing with God, or making sure that you're part of the righteous, right? But when when we believe that he's accomplished everything, that he put us in right standing with God, right? Like we are hidden in him. He loves us. Then the only thing that we have to really think about anymore ever is just loving him, enjoying him, the purpose that he created us for, right? Being totally surrendered to him. And so then that frees us up to, how do I show you love? It's not for earning anything. I just want to love you. I want to love you. I want to worship you. I actually want to live a lifestyle of worship. I want every moment of my life to be worship for you. So how can I do that? And I remember also when we first had kids, I had to pull way back from a lot of the stuff that we were doing that was external. And I was up a lot of nights in the middle of the night. I was doing things that quite frankly are disgusting, like cleaning up like poop explosions and things like that, and just covered in vomit from babies, and just felt so hidden, and so like everything I was doing was so like mundane. I mean, I loved it, don't get me wrong, like I loved the time with the kids, but I realized like there was such a pulling away and hiddenness, and I was like total, and I felt for a season it was some grief about not being able to be on trips or be in services. I mean, I was often outside of services watching the kids, making sure they had all the things they need. And I remember one time I was sitting on the steps of a church and I was hearing people getting healed inside behind me, and I was facing the opposite way, watching like our kids run around and like throw paper airplanes with other kids. And it hit me, this like invitation to like, oh, this moment is actually worship. Like this is my secret place. Like these things that I'm doing, they can actually be worship if I'm doing them to him. Like if I'm like, I'm washing dishes, I'm like giving you this. This is my moment with you. Like I'm doing this for you. I'm making this food for my family, but for you, with the intent to love you. And I'm taking every moment of my day and every tiny like opportunity I get to like love you in the people in front of me. And I honestly, like, that gave me so much life. And as well, like to just like give my life in worship in every moment was incredible for me. And I think a lot of mothers experience that feeling of like not being able to be in things. And I'm like, God, if like if the glory of God is reserved for a stage or a church meeting or a trip, you know, then I'm going to miss out on a lot. So you better, and I remember telling this, like, you better show up in the hidden places, because like I am desperate and desperately hungry for your presence and for your manifest presence with me, like your glory with me. Like, can you show up? Can you rest on the mother breastfeeding in the middle of the night who nobody else sees? Like, is that as much of a holy moment as, you know, Sunday morning when everybody's gathered? And I think like Yes.
I think that religion, when I say religion in this case, I'm a big fan of religion. I'm a big fan of God's version of religion,
Yeah.
which is the only version, and
Yeah.
everything else perverse. The perverse religion, man-made, demonically influenced religion, wants to take God and put him far away
Yes.
when God has come close. And it wants to take our expressions of worship to God and make them as cold and inhuman
Yeah.
as possible. So take it to the furthest extent, you're worshiping an image made of stone.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. But in God's design of religion,
Mm-hmm.
he is living among us. It is very human. We are the temple. We are the image.
Mm-hmm.
He receives offerings that we give to one another. The way that we serve and love one another, those are our offerings
Yes.
to him.
Yeah.
We don't need to go up on a mountaintop or off to a temple or something like that in order to find him. He is close.
Yeah.
Having said that, yes, go on a mountain and pray. Absolutely. That's a different thing though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I'm getting at an ideology
Yeah.
here. James 1:27, pure and undefiled religion in the sight of our God and Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their distress and keep oneself unstained by the world.
Mm.
What does the world do? One of the things the world does is exactly what I just said,
Yeah.
tries to paint God as being far away
Mhm.
and makes our worship of him less human
Yeah.
and more detached, which is hypocrisy and
Mhm.
double-mindedness.
Yeah.
Verse 26 says, if anyone thinks himself to be religious, yet does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this person's religion is worthless. Now, doesn't bridle his tongue, that's not speaking out into air away from human beings. That's talking about how we speak to each other.
Yeah. Yep.
If you do not control your tongue, in other words, if you do not manage the way that you speak to people, your religion is worthless.
Yeah.
If it doesn't translate, right,
Yep.
to speaking words of life, of encouragement and love and blessing, if your religion is not visiting orphans and widows in their distress,
Mm.
and you are keeping yourself stained by the world, right? You're in defiled religion.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah.
And we need to recognize that there is a pure religion
Yeah.
and there is a worthy religion
Mm.
and there is a worthless religion and
Yeah.
a defiled religion.
And I think it's also really, again, like we have all these programs within churches, right? Where there's like teams set up and they're doing this stuff, right? Like I know lots of churches who have like, ministries that are set aside for doing this thing. But I'm like, this is actually talking about like our personal relationship with God. Like he's
Yes.
not gonna go to your church. Like what's the
Well,
the
we
verse
got
we
it
looked at
covered
before?
because our church has a food pantry.
No, it's like he's not like looking at.
No.
He's not looking. I'm saying he's not looking at the verses, in Matthew 25, saying like, well, I'm gonna collectively look at, this church, and there was like 3 or 4 people who headed up this ministry, so the rest of the church is covered. Like, no, this is like
I actually think there's
literally,
an element of that, but not full. I think there's the collective
but I'm
and the
saying there's
individual
an
both simultaneously.
Yeah, but there's an invitation, I think, to love him in our personal life the way that he can be loved.
Mm.
And I think that it gets me excited to think about what does it look like for me to walk this out personally and not just collectively as the body, right?
Yeah.
And it can look like a lot of different things. Like it really can, I think. I think some people but I think like having that mindset is really powerful. And another thing I wanted to point out was actually in Psalms when it says he lifts the poor from the garbage dump and sets them among the princes, even the princes of his own people. I love that verse because it's talking about dignity.
Mm.
And I think that a lot of us and I would say like I would include myself in this in a lot of moments, have like given to the poor but not lifted them. And I think that that also shows like we're talking about like lifting God, like lift up the name, lift up Jesus, like praising him and stuff like that. And God is like, okay, like I'm gonna lift the poor and set them among princes. Like, and I think that God cares greatly that we are giving dignity to people.
You talk about that. That's a lot more than just handing out stuff.
Exactly.
Handing out stuff has a place, but when we talk about serving the poor or, this kind of thing, there's so much more to it than just giving stuff away. For example, I noticed in the States in some places now they have signs on some intersections. Because there's panhandlers that go there, and some of those guys are scamming people.
Yeah, for sure.
To be fair, Jesus said, "Give to those who ask from you," and then what they do with that money, that is on them. They're accountable for that.
Give to those who ask for you, but also give to those who's stealing from you, right?
Give to those who are stealing from you. You can't be robbed if you're being generous.
Not just giving to them, but giving them more than they ask for when they're stealing from you.
Yes.
So Jesus' approach to things is honestly just really offensive and like flies in the face of a lot of what I would say are American ideals of rights.
However,
this is a totally different subject, but I wanted to say it.
I do think though that if we're talking about like here's a panhandler on the street, sure, give them something, whatever. What they do with that's up to them. But what's maybe more constructive than that is if you want to give money, donate to a ministry locally that is actually serving the homeless community, for example, intelligently and constructively in a way that is lifting the poor. Because something we need to recognize, sometimes just giving doesn't actually lift them. It actually keeps them stuck.
Yeah.
It perpetuates a system that they're in. But there's ways of going about it that's more empowering, dignifying.
Well, I think it's about I think it's also about not just soothing your own conscience, right? You see somebody asking for money and you're like, oh, I have, I can. And then sometimes we think we give out of, without even realizing it, I would say like subconsciously to soothe our own conscience. Like, oh, well, I'm doing this. Like here, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is right. So when we lived in another country, that I won't say,
slick, very slick. That's good.
I remember there were beggars all on the street there, and there they work for somebody. You can't give them food. You can't give them like extra money or something like that just for them. You can't do anything. They can't give them clothing, nothing extra. Or they get in trouble because they work for a boss. And it's really sad. But you could be like, oh, well, I'm not going to give them money because it's just going to this.
Yes, some of these guys, their bosses will actually mutilate them.
Yeah,
and then put them on the street so they get more sympathy.
Like if they have like
really sad.
Especially like if they have like if they're not going to be able to ever make a normal living wage, then they'll hurt them, mutilate them, things like that, so that they're more
organized crime.
Yeah, it's terrible
system there.
And I just remember thinking like, okay, like actually, like I do feel strongly to give when somebody asks, but I was like, I refuse to give and not also give dignity and not give like connection. And what does that look like for me? Did not look like, okay, well, I don't have time to stop and connect with you today, so I'm not going to give to you. It looked like actually taking time, like stopping and being late sometimes to places, or building in time because I know I'm going to pass these same people every single day in the same place. And I want to have time to give, like to like walk it out what I believe, and also just to like spend time with them. And actually we like became friends with many of them. Some of them got healed from things, like we shared the gospel. It was, and I honestly, like, we've developed a friendship and connection, and I love them. It was really like, just like, actually probably one of the highlights of the whole year that we were there, for me, was the time we spent with them. And I think that that's just massive. Like, how do we, like, we're loving people authentically, like we're actually loving them, not just soothing our
goal,
conscience.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to do another episode talking about practically how do you serve effectively, because there is this concept of toxic charity.
Yes.
There's
very
many
real.
examples
Very
where, I'm actually dealing with a situation like that in one place right now where I'm like, how do we go about this without
Exactly.
perpetuating a really evil system?
Yes.
But we're not talking about the practical, how do you do it, but more so the concept that Christian worship in God's mind involves serving your fellow man,
Yeah.
loving your fellow man, caring for your fellow man.
Yeah. It's essential.
And that God receives that as a gift, as an offering to himself. And religion is a good thing. God designed it. But God's idea of religion is very different than the religion that we see in the world.
Yes. Yeah.
And he is close, right?
Yeah.
If anyone thinks himself to be religious, yet does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his own heart, that person's religion is worthless. Pure and undefiled religion in the sight of our God and Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. Guys, what do you think? Let us know in the comments. Do you have questions, perspectives, anything like that? If you're getting something out of this, feel free to subscribe, share it, like it, this kind of thing. We'll see you next time.